Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we have another guest today, our friend Johan. Introduce yourself, Johan.
Hi, this is Johan Botha from South Africa.
I wanted in this video you to tell people how you discovered the Torah Life, a little bit about your background, how you grew up. Were you into Christianity or were you into nothing? And then what was the difference about Torah Life and Christianity that made you decide that Torah Life was the way to go?
I was pretty much involved in a mainstream Christianity up until the age of about 28, 29. And then we believed the mainstream Christianity goodies. And then at the age of 29, my wife and I went to Israel the first time. When we went to Israel, we basically was exposed to how the Jews live. We found out about Shabbat and we found out about keeping Torah. So after that trip to Israel, Maureen and I came back and we decided that we should keep Shabbat. Obviously it was a whole process then because we didn't know anything further than what we know about Shabbat. But then we heard of a chap by the name of Monty Judah, and he had what he called the Torah cycle. So we started reading the Torah cycle as per his prescription, or as his example that he gave us. And then obviously after we started doing that, more and more stuff was revealed to my wife and myself about Torah and about going in this route. And also more and more stuff was revealed that we learned in church that was not necessarily a reality. Maybe a little bit twisted this way, that way, depending on what the scenario might have been. But then about a year and a half later, she and I went back to Israel again. And this time we were there over a feast, over the Passover feast. And at that stage, Yahweh basically told me to stop eating pork. So we decided not to eat pork anymore. And from then we went through the whole process of a Passover, partaking in the land of Israel. And also at that stage, Yahweh said to me that I must start keeping all the feasts of the Bible. But at this stage, what did we know? We just got changed over to believing in Torah, and then we get all these other things loaded upon ourselves as well. So we decided that we need to start on this journey. Needless to say, it took us another 7 years before we got to the point where we started keeping the complete feasts of the Lord on a yearly basis.
What was your reaction from your friends and family that knew you when you started to tell them you're going to start to try to do your best to observe Torah?
Well, most of the people thought we were crazy. Some of the people said we were under the law, and some people said, yeah, you just want to be Jews. And all I said is, I didn't want to be any of those things. All I wanted to do is to follow what the word says.
And how has your life changed personally since you started to keep Torah?
Well, my wife and I's lives changed quite dramatically because obviously we stopped eating pork, and there's other things we also stopped eating, like fish. Or I wouldn't say fish, let me rephrase, say it's shellfish, or fish that or sea creatures that was never meant for food. And we started changing the way we dress and the way we look. So there's some changes we did in our lives, and I think it's all for the better, or I believe it's all for the better, at least for me. I can't speak for someone else.
Prior to doing this, how long had you been a Christian for?
A good 28 years that we followed that process. I grew up in a Dutch Reformed church, which was very much the main, let's call it, movement or church group that was the biggest in South Africa at that stage. It came through the family, through my parents, and it was handed down to us.
Why do you think it took you 28 years to finally figure out that there was more to do than just what the normal church teaches?
Well, I think it was just a question of being in the right time at the right place and to see another culture, how they believe in Torah. Not necessarily to say that the Jews do it right, but not necessarily to say they do it wrong either, because I can't speak for them. But it was a culture we were exposed to, and it looked good, but I didn't believe to follow the culture, but I went back to the word to say, rather, let's see what the word says, and that's what we need to do. And when I say the word, I mean the scriptures, and I'm talking about the scriptures from the beginning to the end, from Genesis to Revelation.
And prior to you reading these scriptures from cover to cover, in your 28 years in Christianity, have you ever attempted to do that?
No, because you were purely exposed to what church was teaching you. And in my opinion, it wasn't necessarily bad. Please, I'm not knocking the church. Because if it wasn't for the church, I wouldn't be here. That was a stepping stone. I used that stepping stone and I'm on to the next step. Well, my advice would be is rather go and look what the scriptures or Torah says than to listen to anybody else, because it's your own responsibility. You can't get one day into heaven and say, well, because Paul Neeson said, or because whoever said, that's why I did it. It's what you did.
And has anybody called you legalistic since you've been on this path?
More than once. And that's not all they called us.
And what's your reply been to that?
Well, I would either just walk away, or I'd say, well, that's your opinion. We all got our own opinion about somebody else or some other beliefs.
Great. Is there anything you want to add for people that are watching this?
Well, it's like I just said a little while ago. I said, what I think you should do is you should go and get into Torah from A to Z and find out what Yahweh's got for you.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life Ministries, come out of the world.